everyone, it's me, Carol, as I continue with my series of learning the minor arcana along with numerology. And as you can see, we are up to the number 7 in all of the 4 tarot suits. Now you may recall from the previous video, number 6, when we did the 6s, there was a wonderful calm and stabilization after the change and challenges of the number 5. So we just left a wonderful harmonious energy of the 4 suits in the 6s, and we are now beginning a new phase. We are now beginning a different kind of energy, the vibration of the number 7. Now, even though number 7 is an odd number, and we know that odd numbers are assertive and action-oriented, the number 7 is dual in nature. And that means that it has both properties of the odd and even numbers. So the even number of the number 7 is going to be reserved, reflected, and receptive. Now, in other words, yes, the number 7 is quite complex. It is both mystical, relating to the soul, and intellectual. That is a dichotomy. Yes, it is. And I often try to explain it by the mystic and the scientist. If you can think of the brain of the mystic and think of the brain of the scientist, it's factual, and then the mystical, it's inspirational, it's ungrounded, it's just an inner knowing. Okay, saying all that, you're going to see that the 7 plays out differently as well. It could be a surprising change or a very supple change. It also could be very sly and indecisive. Astrologically, the number 7 corresponds to the planet, you guessed it, Neptune, and the full moon, a dual sign. Okay, Neptune is the planet of illusions and delusions among many other qualities, but that's what we're going to talk about here today. And it can both be spiritual, motivated, but it can also seek to escape reality. That all being said, let's go ahead and begin interpreting each suit with aspects of the number 7 as well as the tarot suits and their elements and how they relate. Now, at the 7 level, we are experimenting. You could say that we're looking at possibilities, and not only using the intellect, we are also going to be using our imagination. 7 is also considered a cyclical number, having to do with time and completions. It's also a number of the 7 days of the week, the 7 scales, the musical scales, the 7 primary colors in a rainbow, the 7 chakras. So you get the idea. And oftentimes it's pausing, it's reflecting, it's resting, and it's recouping. And we'll see much of these traits and conditions in the tarot cards as we do these one by one. Now, you heard me say earlier that there's a completion cycle of the physical labor prior to reaching this stage. So let's begin with the 7 of Wands. Now, we get a sense of indecision here right off the bat because he is wearing 2 different shoes and he's on a mound, so he does have the upper hand, possibly with ideas, options, or the challenges he now faces. Now, they have to be clarified and dealt with before he proceeds. There is a pausing in the 7, but a decision has to be made. Yet, we also look at the barren ground in the 7 of Wands, and that indicates that not much thought has been given to the self. I say that because the Wands not only indicate spirit, fire energy, enterprise, but they have to do with the inner self. And the blue sky suggests he has not done that. He's not worked with he's struggling with inner peace and contentment, and his unconscious, which we will talk about a little bit more later, knows that he has to slow down and it is time to integrate. Now, these obstacles could be centered around relationships with others. They could be a challenge that he will overcome because he seems to be very courageous right now. He's looking straight at his opposition, and his legs are saying, "I am up for the battle." He's, centering himself. But the card gives us an additional clue. Now, that clue, we were very victorious here. And we had support and we saw the figures. Now, what's happening that's so different here is that even though that he is above, he's alone. There are no others shown here. The wands just jolt out of the bottom of the card, and symbolically, it represents hidden aspects of ourselves, the unconscious. That's what that blue background is all about. And his yellow undergarment, which is on his skin, is the intellect and the thinking. His green garment over that indicates that there is possibility for inner growth. Green is also healing potential. And this is a period of refinement, looking at what is coming out of the unconscious. It is now ripe for intuition, spiritual evaluation, and completion. Remember, 7 is also a form of completion. So I usually like to ask the question, are we defensive? Are we uncomfortable when having to listen or allow others' input, ideas, suggestions, and oppositions? And are we taking time out to stop the battle, listen within, and see what our higher self needs when this card comes out? Okay, let's go on now to the 7 of Cups. Now, we said earlier that 7 was a mystical and intellectual number corresponding to the planet Neptune, which can be very psychic, but also ungrounded. Remember, illusions. And let's face it, folks, these are like castles in the sky, and you can relate by looking at this card, what I said. Also, when we add the energy of the elements, cups, which is water, which is unconscious, which is feelings and emotion, this card really comes alive. When we blend this energy, we seem to have caused some fear in the individual here, depicted in the card. He or she is all in black as they approach the manifestation that his head is in the cloud or her head is in the cloud that has been created in the mind. Now, we know that the left side is the receptive side. It's the intuitive side. It's the receiving side. And this person seems to be reaching to grasp one of the cups with the left hand, and the right hand seems to be trying to balance its outward. Knowing palmistry, it is said that when the tips of the fingers are pointed, and it looks like Pamela Coleman Smith really tried to show us that in the hand, the individual with the pointed fingertips is very sensitive, intuitive, and psychic. So that blends in very well with this card. This card is also known as the 7 deadly sins or virtues. And those are gifts and tests that each of us have as we walk through life and experience life. And they're vanity, fame, ego, illusions, jealousy, glamour, and wealth. But the center figure here, draped, is the true self and is waiting to be unveiled. Again, let me reiterate that the 7 has to do with the soul. Let's walk through these 7 cups right now, because we talked about the 7 deadly sins and the virtues. We can say that the head is the ego, vanity. We already talked about this as the unveiled higher self. The serpent is the snake is to overcome jealousy. The castle is material success. Of course, jewelry is the lure of luxury. The wreath is also success, but if you look closely at the cup, there is a skeleton, which is really symbolic of death. And basically what it means that success is short-lived. We saw that here with the victory wreath on the wand and on his head, but after the 6, where he claimed victory, he's now at the 7, and that victory and that camaraderie needs to be achieved again. So yes, success is short-lived, and that's what's depicted here. We can also attribute the following to these images in the cups. Let's go and say that the blue image here of the woman is sexuality. The clothed angel is definitely spirituality. The yellow snake is wisdom, and it certainly is energy. The blue castle, of course, is adventure. The jewelry is the promise of wealth, and of course, all our achievements. And the blue dragon is our emotions. And of course, that wreath indicates that death of success. So we can look at it that way, and looking at the way that the cups are arranged, we also get insights. The top 3 here form a triangle, and that indicates the body, mind, and spirit. Well, the mind is definitely the head here. The body is the serpent, also relating to the kundalini, or energy, going up the back of the spine. And the spirit, of course, is our veiled angel over here. So that is the trinity there, or the body, mind, spirit. Now the 4 cups on the bottom, 4 is a very material number, but these 4 cups on the bottom indicates the material plane that we all live in. So that 7 of cups really is sometimes quite hard to understand. Castles in the air, the illusions, but when we're looking at interpreting it, I would say let's look at examining our aims and our goals carefully before we make a choice. Now, on the positive side, there's creative visualization going on here. You could be dreaming more and receiving inspiration and psychic visions depending on the surrounding cards. Also, depending on the surrounding cards, there could be substance abuse, out of control habits, or coping mechanisms. And sometimes this card can indicate the way that we indulge ourselves. What do we reach for when we're frustrated and depressed? You know, our coping mechanism. And lastly, the card reminds us that this is the way that the world views success, you know, glamour and jewelry and material things and ferocity. That's definitely the dragon. So it's a card with many possible meanings. All right, let's go on to the 7 of Swords. Now, the sword suits, as you know, relate to thoughts, idea, reasoning, action, communication, and the effort that we place after we make a decision, right? Now we're looking at this image, and there is definitely an air of craftiness, uncertainty. He's on his tippy toes, right? So I like to call this card the fight or flight card. And it's debatable. Again, this is a hard card to interpret along with the Seven of Cups. And there are many ways of interpreting it, and we're going to look at that. But if we look back, and let me get this card out here. If we look back at the Five of Swords, there was a battle going on at this point. But the Seven may be suggesting that no battle is needed here. Instead, we can be clever with our mind. We can strategize. We can be covert. And we can plan when other people are not paying attention. So we can win the battle without a physical fight. We can also get the idea to kind of be crafty with our words, with our suggestions, which can also throw off other people. So it's the use of language in a manipulative way. Also, again, going back to doing things when people are not paying attention. If you look over here on the left-hand side, there are three figures. One is holding a wand, but they're all kind of paying attention to one another. And there's this big cloud of gray smoke. So that gray is a gray area. They're not paying attention. They're not planning. They are at a pause position for what they have already done, and no decisions are being made except for this one individual who seems to be, let's say, taking ideas of someone else, because you also know that when the swords are not grounded, they're still in play. They still can be used. So these ideas could be someone else that he is determined to take. Now I use the word determined because number one, he has a red hat and red shoes, matching red hat and red shoe. Red in the tarot is desire. It is what you plan to do. It's an action. And the intellect, his thinking in the background and on the ground work hand in hand. So his desire and his plan is to use or to get away with these ideas, these thoughts, these projects. And he's willing to leave two behind. They are already been used, and you can see he's looking back and he's moving away. Now there is also a suggestion that this is temporary results because you have tens. Right? Tens are temporary. So the situation or the progress is not long lasting. And we can also say that sometimes this card has to do with being mindful of someone who is being insincere, giving you wrong advice. Sometimes this card shows up when you're really going to take a short trip and travel just to get away, just for a change of pace. You want a different activity. I also would say double check when someone makes an offer or a presentation to you. Someone could be planning an escape, looking for a way out of a situation that is unstable or suspicious. That's also a possibility of this card. Again, looking at cards surrounding it. And it may indicate someone who has the ability, like I said, to kind of manipulate or talk their way out of sticky situations. All right. We now come to the last card, which is the Seven of Pentacles. And this card shows us the value of hard work and planning, because we know Pentacles is physical. We know that Pentacles is tangible goods. It's related to finance, craftsmanship, and skill, and as well as the physical body. And we're kind of at a plateau here. Kind of a, okay, this is what I'm dealt. Now remember, God rested on the seventh day. He blessed it and sanctified it. So the image of this person here is pausing, resting on his tool of hard work, the hoe, and he's looking at the work that he's done in the past. It's to the left, his effort, and he's asking himself, am I satisfied with that? Now, he's very balanced in the way he is viewing it. In a balanced ways, that's showed by the stance of his feet and that everything is being centered. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is that he has one leg on the blue, which is the integration of the unconscious, with the brown, the grounding, and the green, the healing. So he is looking for higher inspiration to come to him. He also has his hands crossed on the top of the hoe, and he has his chin resting, looking to maybe connect the spiritual with the material, the brown and the blue, and there is also a sense of replenishing his energy. If we're looking at the back of the spine where we have the 7 chakras. Not only that, but let's look carefully at where the hoe or the wand is. You have a pink substance here, and that is the care of the cultivation. Maybe that is of his body, and it's meeting up with the inspiration of the blue, the unknown of the blue, and hopefully will later on manifest to the attainment of the violet or the purple mountains. But there's a lot of if in here, because number one, there's no fruit on the vine, so it hasn't come to fruition. So we have to ask ourselves, am I up for additional work? If I am going to pick up that 1 pentacle. Remember, the Ace of Pentacles is an offering of God, the unknown, that energy. And if I do, then I will proceed and continue to harvest, cultivate, and reap the rewards of additional hard work. But again, that is what is being contemplated here at the 7. That is what is being questioned. So ways of interpreting this card is, are you happy with what has been attained? Are you willing to work harder, or do you want to walk away and be satisfied with what has been achieved? Are you taking care of your physical body? Have the efforts that you've done already been disappointing? Now, the orange boots say that he has the courage, and that's on his right side, that is the active side, to go on and be grounded with the brown boot. So he has the physical energy to do so. But this card is easier to interpret when we have the surrounding cards. So there could be financial security, but is it enough? Have I used my money, my finances in a productive way? Those changes also can be looked at as interpreting this card. Okay, folks, I don't want this to be too long. I hope you enjoyed it. I welcome all your thoughts and your comments. Let me know what you think. And as always, we will talk again soon. Thanks, everyone.